that type of player, that type of an impact player. And he's got some of the same type of qualities as Patrick Kane. Great deception. He makes you think he's going to do one thing and then he does something else. And he keeps all his options open. He really is a special talent. That imagination, that creativity.
You know, he'll have his hands full in Toronto, but he seems like he's prepared for it, and he'll have a good support system there too, with obviously Auston, and he'll have lots of support around him, so he should be fine.
This is Gavin McKenna on draft night, 18 years old, the first overall pick in the NHL draft.
Mr. McKenna, we would like to draft you to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And after Toronto won the lottery with just an 8.5% chance, the Maple Leafs had their next franchise player. 8 weeks later, McKenna was in Vancouver. No cameras that mattered, no suit, no podium, no pins sewn into the lining of a jacket. Just an 18-year-old on the ice, in a group he didn't have to join, doing work nobody was going to write about. And he wasn't alone. Skating in that group was Macklin Celebrini, the last first overall NHL draft pick to make the jump McKenna is about to make. Nobody covered that summer. It didn't produce a highlight or a headline. It might be the most important 8 weeks of his career, because the NHL has never actually stopped a player like this.
Back to McKenna. Little finesse, couple drags, shoots, scores! Brilliant! Gavin McKenna, overtime, game winner!
It's only ever slowed one down. The numbers are the part you already know. 129 points in 56 games in Medicine Hat at 17 in the 2024-25 WHL season.
Get onto the rebound. He'll have a 2-on-1 shorthanded with speed. Pacheco the trailer. McKenna, what a move. Gavin McKenna, mastery!
97 the year before. A point streak that ran 54 games across the regular season, the playoffs and the Memorial Cup, a modern record in Canadian junior hockey. Kyle Woodleaf of Redline Report, one of the most respected scouts in the business, put it about as plainly as a scout can, that the word generational gets thrown around far too loosely, and that if it doesn't apply to McKenna, it should never apply to anyone. But the numbers tell you he's good. They don't tell you what kind of good, because McKenna doesn't beat you the way Connor McDavid beats you, blowing past a defenseman's hip and tilting the whole rink. He does something quieter and harder to plan for. He waits, he drifts, he changes speed, he pulls a defenseman toward him until the man commits, and then he's already gone through the space that opened up behind him. He doesn't beat the structure, he makes the structure move first, which is exactly why what he did next made no sense at all. A player putting up those numbers had no reason to go anywhere.
McKenna skates onto it at center, down the left wing. McKenna, shorthanded, shoots, scores!
In the summer of 2025, the NCAA finally dropped the CHL-NCAA eligibility rule that had kept Canadian junior players out of American college hockey. McKenna committed to Penn State on SportsCenter and walked away from a league he was destroying to go play against men in their 20s. It did not go well. 4 goals, 18 points, 16 games. For the consensus first overall pick, that isn't domination, that's surviving.
Jackson Smith thought about it. McKenna, the low drive, scores! Gavin McKenna, 2-0!
Scott Wheeler of The Athletic wrote that the talent and upside were undeniable, but that McKenna was imperfect and increasingly frustrating evaluators. McKenna's own explanation was simple. He could have stayed in the WHL and piled up points. He wanted to be challenged. He said he was getting challenged. Then it turned. 51 points in 35 games in the 2025-26 NCAA season.
Far side, Godowski across McKenna, one-timer, he scores!
The first Penn State Nittany Lions player ever to win a Big Ten scoring title. And on February 20th, against Ohio State, 8 points in a single night, 7 of them assists. The most assists in an NCAA Division I game in more than 40 years.
Jackson Smith thought about it. McKenna, the low drive, scores! Gavin McKenna, 2-0, Penn State!
TSN's Craig Button had already compared McKenna to Mitch Marner, the creative, pass-first winger who makes a finisher's life easier. That night looked exactly like proof. But that night isn't the most valuable thing on his resume. The 16 games before it are, because that's the stretch every rookie eventually meets and almost nobody talks about, where the game is too fast, the bodies are too big, and none of the things that used to work still work. McKenna has already lived inside it once. He already knows what it feels like when the answer takes a while to show up, which meant that by June, he'd answered the question everyone else was still asking. The problem was where the draft sent him. Toronto won the lottery on May 5th with an 8.5% chance. 5th best odds in the field. "You need some luck," John Chayka said that night, and we got it. This was a team coming off 32 wins and 15th in the East. A season that came apart around injuries, including the one that ended Auston Matthews' year after 60 games. McKenna signed his 3-year entry-level deal and told ESPN what he wanted out of year 1. Make the playoffs, go on a run, win a Calder Trophy. He said if that happened, it'd be a pretty good year. And in his first press conference as a Maple Leaf, the kid from Whitehorse, Yukon, a member of the Turonic-Wichin First Nation and only the second Indigenous player ever taken first overall, talked about the kids back home. He wanted them to believe anything was possible. That's normally where a summer like this ends. Sign the deal, do the media, go home, wait for September. Instead, he went to Vancouver. Not a camp, not a showcase, a training group. Small, closed, and viciously competitive. Pros and prospects skating together all summer. And Celebrini was in it. McKenna has described what that was like himself. He said he followed what Celebrini was doing. He said Celebrini was intense, on the ice and off it.
Anderson, he turned it over. Graff will steal it, come in. Now Celebrini, what a move and a stop! That one goes in!
He said the group pushed him, and that he felt he got better every time he stepped on. He mentioned a number too, 1 week that included roughly 17 total hours on the ice. And to be precise, because it's been thrown around carelessly since, that's 17 hours across a week, combined, not a day. The daily program has never been made public, and anybody telling you exactly which drills he ran is inventing it. But here's the thing, the 17 hours aren't actually the story. 17 hours of ice is impressive, but plenty of elite prospects spend their summers skating relentlessly. That alone isn't what makes this interesting. So if the hours aren't the story, what is? It's what surrounded them. McKenna didn't walk into a workout. He walked into somebody else's routine and got to watch, up close, every day, how a 20-year-old NHL star actually runs a life. How seriously he treats the work nobody will ever see. How he competes when he's tired and there's nothing on the line. What he does before he laces up and after he steps off. And then how he shows up the next morning and does all of it again without needing a reason to. McKenna mentioned something else about that summer. They made time away from the rink. They tried to relax. That's not a throwaway detail. That's part of the standard too. Every rookie eventually finds out where the professional bar sits. They just usually find out the expensive way, by falling short of it for an entire season and hearing about it in an exit meeting in April. McKenna got to stand next to the bar before his first NHL shift. He didn't get advice from Macklin Celebrini. He got Celebrini's Tuesday, and here's where the story quietly gets bigger. Celebrini didn't invent that standard either. He came up through Canada's international programs, the rooms where Sidney Crosby and Nathan MacKinnon are simply there. Crosby worked with him directly on face-offs, technique, details, the kind of thing that never makes a highlight package and decides hockey games anyway. Celebrini had already won the Hobey Baker Award at Boston University, the highest individual honor in American college hockey.
And the winner is Macklin Celebrini, forward, Boston University.
Before stepping into those NHL-level environments, Celebrini watched how Crosby prepared, how he competed, how obsessively he cared about things that looked small. Crosby, Celebrini, McKenna. Be careful with that because this is where these stories usually turn silly. Crosby did not create Celebrini. Celebrini will not create McKenna. Nobody inherits a career. There's no torch. What actually travels is narrower than that and more useful. A set of habits and proof that they work. The distance between Sidney Crosby's standard and Gavin McKenna's first NHL training camp is 2 people. But there's a catch, because the closer you look at Celebrini and McKenna, the more obvious it is that McKenna can't copy him. Celebrini is a center who attacks the middle. He carries through pressure, protects the puck through contact, forces defensemen to collapse, and then punishes them for it.
Ahead Graff, he's got Celebrini on a breakaway! He scores! Celebrini's got 2 in the first!
McKenna works the opposite way, finds the gap, delays, gets a defender to lean, and is past the decision before it's made. Style doesn't transfer, but look at what McKenna actually has to add. Strength through contact, battles along the wall, back-checking, supporting his defenseman, making the simple play when the ice disappears, staying dangerous when he isn't the one carrying the puck. That isn't a list of skills, it's a list of habits.
McKenna fires, scores! He's the one you came to see and he delivers!
which is exactly what he spent his summer standing beside. So he comes back from Vancouver carrying something he's never had, and Toronto hands him the one thing that could make it matter right away. Because he isn't walking into a rebuild. That's the part that keeps getting missed. Toronto didn't drop a savior onto an empty roster and ask him to carry a franchise on an entry-level contract. Under Chayka and head coach Jim Hiller, they spent the summer attacking the real problem, which was never star power. It was everything underneath it. Veteran goaltending in Sergei Bobrovsky, real centers in the middle who check and kill penalties, speed, size on the fourth line. They stopped asking 3 players to be the whole team, which means the job waiting for McKenna is smaller than any Toronto first overall pick has ever been handed, and Auston Matthews is standing in the middle of it. Picture the sequence. McKenna carries the puck over the line, Matthews drives the middle, and everyone in the building respects that, so the coverage tilts inside.
To center, Matthews will carry it in. Auston Matthews, great move, scores!
McKenna delays on the wall, just holds it, 1 beat longer than is comfortable to watch. Now the defense has an impossible choice. Step out on McKenna, and Matthews is alone in the slot. Collapse on Matthews and McKenna has all day. Sit on the pass and McKenna goes to the net himself. That's the whole point of him. He doesn't break a system, he makes it pick which way it wants to lose. McKenna has said playing with Matthews could be, his word, lethal. And there's a shape to this that Leafs fans will recognize immediately, because it's a shape that just left. Mitch Marner, the creative pass-first winger who made Matthews' life easier for most of a decade, is in Vegas on 8 years and $96 million. TSN's Craig Button compared McKenna to Marner, and Toronto doesn't have to invent a role for this kid. There's already a hole the exact shape of his game. Now the other side. He hasn't played a minute of NHL hockey. He's listed around 5'11" and 170 pounds, and there's a version of this where NHL defensemen simply take away the ice he needs and make him prove he can play without it. His offensive game is well ahead of his defensive game. That's a function of his age, not a criticism, but it's also the thing that decides whether Jim Hiller trusts him beside Matthews in March or hides him on a third line in November. 35 college games is not 82 NHL games, and nobody knows what he looks like in his 60th. The summer with Celebrini guarantees nothing. It can't be converted into points. It doesn't buy him an inch of ice. And Toronto is Toronto. That market has taken far more established players than Gavin McKenna and turned them into referendums. Marner's own story is the warning. The star who stopped being a player and became a symbol of everything the franchise couldn't do.
And now here's Marner again. Hat-trick bid for Marner, and he scores!
The real danger here isn't that McKenna fails, it's that a bad November gets treated as a verdict on a career. But notice something about every one of those doubts. Not one of them is about whether he gets there, they're about how long it takes. That's what this has been about the whole time. The league has never really stopped a player like this. It's only ever bought time. A year to get strong enough. A year to learn the speed. A year of being hunted every night until the game finally slows down and opens up. That year is the head start. It's how everyone else gets to plan. It's the only defense anybody's ever had. Gavin McKenna spent this summer trying to give it back. He'd already gone looking for the harder room once. Walked away from a 129-point WHL season to get beaten up in the Big Ten for 16 games, until it finally clicked, through a CHL-NCAA eligibility rule change that nobody knew would matter this much. Then he spent his first professional offseason inside the routine of the last first overall NHL draft pick, who made this jump and didn't need years to matter. A Hobey Baker winner out of Boston University. Habits that trace back through Celebrini to Crosby, not as some torch being passed, but as a standard he simply got to see before anyone demanded it of him. And now he walks into a rebuilt roster under John Chayka and Jim Hiller, in the loudest market in hockey, beside a finisher who's been waiting 3 years for exactly this kind of winger, into a job that's already open. Nobody knows if it worked. He hasn't taken a shift. But if he shows up in October already knowing where the bar is, then the thing the rest of the league was quietly counting on isn't there anymore. They're not afraid Gavin McKenna is good. They've known that for 3 years. They're afraid he's early.